Over the past several days, one question has moved from regional intelligence briefings into the center of global strategic discussion. Did Iran just make a dangerous move in the Strait of Hormuz? Right now, inside Washington, Tehran, Riyadh, London, Beijing, and multiple defense headquarters across the world, that question is shaping military planning, energy forecasts, and diplomatic calculations. Because what may appear at first to be another regional maritime incident could be something far more significant, a warning, a test of Western resolve, or the opening phase of a much broader confrontation in one of the most sensitive regions on Earth. And depending on what happens next, the consequences may not remain limited to the Persian Gulf. They could affect global trade, financial markets, military deployments, and the political calculations of nearly every major power. To understand why this moment matters, we need to begin with geography, the Strait of Hormuz. A narrow but critically important waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. At first glance, it looks like a small shipping lane on a map, but in reality, it functions as one of the most important economic arteries in the modern world. Nearly 1/5 of global oil shipments pass through this narrow corridor. A substantial share of the world's liquefied natural gas also travels through these waters. Every day, tankers carrying energy resources to Europe, Asia, and beyond pass within range of Iranian coastal defenses. That means a single local incident in this region can influence fuel prices in Tokyo, manufacturing costs in Germany, and stock markets in New York within hours. This is why every military movement near Hormuz receives intense attention. And over the last several days, those movements have become impossible to ignore. American destroyers have remained active in the Gulf. Reconnaissance aircraft continue flying. Carrier support groups remain positioned within rapid operational range. Regional air defense systems are fully alert. At the same time, Iranian forces linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have reportedly expanded activity near key maritime routes. Fast patrol craft, surveillance drones, coastal anti-ship missile batteries, naval command vessels, and in several cases, commercial shipping operators reported unusual radio communications from Iranian maritime authorities. None of this officially means conflict, but it does mean signals are being sent. And in geopolitics, signals often matter more than statements, because before countries negotiate publicly, they often negotiate through positioning. And right now, positioning is happening across the entire Gulf. But to understand why Iran may be taking this step now, we need to examine the broader strategic context. This current tension did not emerge overnight. Its roots go back through years of conflict, sanctions, proxy confrontations, and failed diplomacy. Over the last year, three major forces have been shaping the U.S.-Iran relationship. The first is nuclear negotiations, the second is regional influence, and the third is economic survival. The nuclear issue remains central. American officials continue expressing concern about Iran's uranium enrichment levels, inspection access, advanced centrifuge development, and what defense analysts call breakout capability, the theoretical timeline for producing weapons-grade material if political decisions were made. Iran continues insisting that its nuclear program is civilian, that it remains within peaceful objectives, that Western concerns are politically motivated. This disagreement has defined U.S.-Iran diplomacy for decades, but recent reports suggest Washington has proposed a new framework, a potential final diplomatic package, longer enrichment restrictions, expanded inspection access, sanctions relief tied to compliance, maritime security guarantees, and regional de-escalation commitments. According to several analysts, Tehran has not accepted the framework, and recent actions in Hormuz may be linked directly to that standoff, because if negotiations are stalling, Iran may be demonstrating leverage, a reminder that despite sanctions and pressure, it still controls one of the most sensitive energy choke points in the world. That gives Tehran influence far beyond its economy. But the nuclear issue is only one part of the story. The second issue is regional power projection. Iran has spent decades building strategic depth across the Middle East, in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, through state relationships, aligned militias, and regional networks. From Tehran's perspective, these are defensive buffers, a deterrent against direct isolation, a means of preventing encirclement. From Washington's perspective, they create long-term instability. And this difference in perception creates constant friction. Every U.S. military deployment is seen by Iran as pressure. Every Iranian-aligned movement in the region is seen by Washington as escalation. This mutual suspicion means even routine military actions can become politically explosive. That brings us to the third issue: economic pressure. Iran's economy remains under severe sanctions. Its banking system faces international restrictions. Its currency has experienced repeated instability. Inflation remains high. Youth unemployment continues creating domestic strain. Oil exports remain critical for state revenue. And this matters because economic stress shapes political behavior. When governments face internal pressure, external confrontation can become strategically useful. A show of strength can reinforce internal legitimacy. A controlled confrontation can rally public support. And in some cases, strategic signaling abroad can strengthen political unity at home. That may be part of what is happening now. So what exactly did Iran do? That is where the situation becomes especially important. Recent maritime tracking suggests several commercial vessels altered routes near the strait after receiving communications linked to Iranian authorities. Some ships reportedly slowed, others changed course. A small number delayed entry entirely. There was no official blockade, no formal declaration, no announced closure, and that may be exactly the point, because a full closure would almost certainly trigger immediate military response. Selective interference is different. It creates uncertainty. It allows Tehran to demonstrate control without crossing the clearest red line, and that ambiguity may be strategic. Iran does not need to stop every tanker. It only needs to prove that it can affect traffic. That alone can raise shipping insurance. Increase energy prices, create political pressure on importing nations, and remind adversaries that economic costs can rise quickly. That makes this move dangerous, not because it starts a war immediately, but because it changes the negotiating environment. And right now, global markets are reacting. Oil traders, shipping insurers, military analysts, energy ministries, sovereign wealth funds, all are watching the Gulf, because even rumors of disruption in Hormuz can affect pricing within minutes. Modern markets operate at digital speed. A single military headline can trigger automated trading responses before diplomats have even issued a statement. That creates another layer of pressure, not only on governments, but on allies. Saudi Arabia is watching, the UAE is watching, Israel is watching, India is watching, Japan is watching, and perhaps most importantly, China is watching, because China imports a large share of its energy through Gulf routes. Any disruption in Hormuz affects Beijing's industrial planning, manufacturing output, energy reserves, shipping logistics. This is why reports suggesting quiet Chinese diplomatic engagement with Tehran have drawn significant attention. If China is requesting safe passage for its own commercial vessels, it means Beijing may already be preparing for prolonged uncertainty. And that tells us something crucial. Major powers may believe this crisis could last longer than public statements suggest. Now, the central question: why would Iran risk such a move? There are several possible explanations. Scenario 1, strategic signaling. Tehran may simply want to remind the United States and its allies that maximum pressure has limits, that Iran still possesses asymmetric leverage, that negotiations cannot ignore its strategic position. Scenario 2, economic leverage. By increasing uncertainty in energy markets, Iran may be raising the cost of sanctions for everyone. Higher oil prices can create political pressure on Western governments. That can shift diplomatic incentives. Scenario 3, internal political messaging. Iran's leadership may need to project strength domestically, especially if internal debates over diplomacy are intensifying. Hardliners may argue that resistance is more effective than compromise. Moderates may push for negotiation. Strategic moves in Hormuz may influence that internal balance. But there is a fourth possibility, and it may be the most dangerous. Miscalculation. A local commander may act aggressively. A warning transmission may be misread. A commercial captain may refuse instructions. A naval escort may intervene. A drone may cross into sensitive airspace. And suddenly, a controlled signal becomes an uncontrolled crisis. History shows this happens more often than leaders expect. That is why communication channels remain essential. Military hotlines, back-channel diplomats, third-party mediators, intelligence contacts. These quiet systems often prevent tactical incidents from becoming wars. And right now, they may be more important than ever, because both sides appear to be pursuing the same strategy. Project strength, preserve flexibility, avoid direct war. But standoffs like this rarely remain stable forever. Eventually, pressure creates movement. Diplomacy succeeds, or confrontation finds a way to replace it. And that may be exactly where the Gulf stands today. Washington believes it still holds leverage, military leverage, economic leverage, alliance leverage. Tehran believes it still holds endurance, regional influence, energy leverage, geographic leverage. The question is no longer whether both sides are signaling. They clearly are. The question is which side believes time is on its side. Because if Iran's recent move was merely symbolic, this crisis may cool. But if Tehran is beginning a strategy of selective maritime pressure, then the next phase may look very different. More sanctions, more naval escorts, more drones, more regional deployments, and potentially much less room for diplomacy. For now, the world continues watching. Not only speeches, not only military statements, but the quiet movement of ships through one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. Because in moments like this, the biggest geopolitical shifts often begin silently, long before the cameras arrive. And right now, those shifts may already be reshaping the next chapter of the Middle East.